Well, it's the month of July, and it's going to be special. Why, you may ask? Because I'm deeming the month of July as SushiRoboGO's
Mecha Month,
where every show this month will be about the mecha genre. So let's kick it off with this entry. You know that one game, developed by LucasArts, published by Konami, commands nearly $300 for a loose copy? Well, we're not talking about that game. Instead, we're talking about the game that inspired it. The game that everybody compares it to. That's right, we're talking about this game. It's called Cybernator. Published by Konami as well, this game came out nearly 3 years before Metal Warriors. So is it true that this game inspired the popular LucasArts title? Well, let's find out. This is Cybernator, a run-and-gun action game that's a part of the mecha genre. It's also commonly believed to have inspired the popular title Metal Warriors. But is that actually true? Cybernator was first released in 1992 in Japan, then later on in 1993 for North America. It was developed by NCS Corp, then published by Masaya for Japan, while Konami published it for America. Cybernator is a single-player run-and-gun platformer for both the Super Famicom and the Super Nintendo. This game featured a cast of main characters, as well as an in-depth storyline that would determine which two endings you get after completing the game. War has begun all over Earth for its dwindling resources. This battle takes place between two warring governments, the Heroic Federation and the Evil Axis. A small similarity with Metal Warriors, as it takes place between two warring governments as well, the evil one being known as the Dark Axis. The word Axis gets such a bad rap in storylines. You take control of the main character, Jake Brain, who's an AS pilot for the United Pacific States Marine Corps. With the help of his wingmen, Apollo and Mitch, Jake is on a mission to stop the Axis and defeat their leader, Klaus von Meister. It's also important to note that the Japanese version differs from the other versions, as other countries censored parts of the dialogue and even did away with a particular event where a character commits suicide. In 2004, Cybernator was ported to the PlayStation 2 for Japan, Europe, and Australia, but was met with negative reviews as the game was not considered innovative. That's development and storyline in a nutshell. Now, it's time to pop this son of a bitch in and play it. You feel immersed into the storyline as you're given expository dialogue throughout the game, a thing that isn't normally given by many other games in the run-and-gun genre. The immersion is assisted more by the environment placed before you, watching a full-scale war unfold before your very eyes as you and your wingmen launch from a carrier ship to head right into battle. You're accompanied by music that doesn't let up and keeps you feeling like you're at war and you need to obtain that victory. Surrounded by war, destruction, a wall of enemies, and the cold emptiness of space, you still feel like an unstoppable war machine as you pilot the assault suit through the stages. Immediately, this game puts you close into the action. The first level introduces you to the gameplay and the control scheme, allowing you to familiarize yourself with the assault suit's movements and abilities. Combat is fluid, and there's no lull in the action. The game doesn't limit your attack, as you're given multiple angles to shoot. Offensive attacks aren't your only weapon, as your assault suit has maneuvers to avoid oncoming attacks, utilizing jump thrusters to launch you to higher platforms, and even using a power glide to whip past enemies, allowing you to flank them from behind. If a direct attack is imminent, hitting the right shoulder button will activate a shield that will defend you from the attack. When it comes to weapons, you're not limited either. The pause screen has a window where you can select different weapons by hitting X. When using the weapons, your aim has to be precise, as hit detection in this game is near perfect. Every shot counts, and that goes for your enemy's attacks as well. Levels have a pseudo open world setup, while maintaining a level of linear style. They are well constructed, yet at times feel a little repetitive, but it doesn't take away from the game's luster. Levels change as you progress, from putting you into a Gradius-style space shooter and quickly transitioning into a zero-gravity level that mimics a water level's physics. Though the environment is surrounded by the emptiness of space, it is far from empty. You constantly have that feeling of something more happening outside your zone, that maybe there's another AS pilot fighting for victory somewhere else in the distance. Enemy types are plentiful, with different individual attacks and patterns of movement. At times, they'll come at you in one wave, so you might be dealing with different attacks all at once. On top of that, they'll even work together using multiple tactics trying to pin you down and put you in a bad spot. You'll encounter fixed sentry guns, giant energy beams, and even other mech types that nearly rival your mech's abilities. Despite the amount of creative enemy types, there are some that seem uninspired. The difficulty of the game will vary depending on what level you are on. It fluctuates from relatively easy to brutally difficult from level to level. But regardless of the game's difficulty spikes, due to the game's hit detection and all-around mechanics, majority of deaths feel like they're entirely your fault. But there can be times when you feel like the difficulty is almost unfair due to the saturation of enemies on one screen. You can easily be overwhelmed, and like I stated before, enemies can group up on you and use joint tactics to deliver punishing blows, leaving your mech crippled by the time you reach the level boss. Everything visually comes together with stellar detail. Character movement is smooth and fluid. Sprites are detailed very well and aren't difficult to identify during gameplay. This is all thanks to the vast color palette utilized in the game. Environments are colorful and pop your sprite out. They're even using what appears to be parallax scrolling to give each level more depth. The stage graphics are very good and aren't overly distracting to take away from the combat in the foreground. Pixels are smooth for the most part, but some explosions do appear overly pixelated. Even after that, it's apparent that a lot of care and work was put towards graphics and design. Picking up the controller, you feel like you're in total control of Jake's assault suit. There's very little to no delay in button response, and at no times does it feel clunky. Button layout is on the simple side to make learning easier than most of your conventional games. You do though feel like you're fighting your sprite a little bit during the 0G levels, but in the end, controls are tight and intuitive. Sound effects are nice and satisfying, impact sounds are prominent, and you know when you're dealing damage. Unfortunately, I'd say that they aren't very innovative and a little on the simple side, but they're quite above average for your conventional run and gun game. Music is well composed and fits the feeling on screen. It's slow when it needs to be and fast when the action picks up. Though the initial sound is good, the music's timing and rhythm is where it excels. Just listen to it. It's probably true that Metal Warriors was inspired by Cybernator, and I'm not surprised. It's a fun and immersive game with a prominent storyline. Combined with tight controls, good music, and appealing graphics, this game still retains its fun factor despite its huge difficulty spikes. And even with those spikes, you're driven to get better and try harder, opposed to just throwing the controller down in a fit of rage every time you die. I recommend this game for anybody looking for a fun challenge. Even if you find it too difficult, it's still worth the look. That was it, my review of Cybernator for the Super Nintendo. I hope you enjoyed, because Mecha Month has just begun, and there's way more to come. If you enjoyed what you saw, give me a like and subscribe, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.
Shield, cast the magic, feel like a name, 'cause we are